Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old 4th Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Uninvited guests, am I right? Who invited this lady, Helene, to visit us smack dab in the midst of what is a busy election season, and yet here we are dealing with, well, first of all, we had severe weather, rain moving through that had nothing to do with the impending hurricane and tropical storm, and that made things super wet. And then you've got the storm itself with its high winds, and if you have trees around your man, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you because it's going to be kind of dicey with the ground being so wet. But you didn't come here to get meteorological information or the latest information about Hurricane Helene. Thank you for listening to The Ron Show, whether it's on the America One Radio app, AmericaOneRadio.com, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, or by podcast. In the primary season, we sort of made a little bit of noise about what I'll just flat out say is a fake Democrat who ran and won the Democratic nomination. I guess Democrats kind of got caught flat-footed in the 11th Congressional District here in Georgia, which is a swing state, but because of gerrymandering, we don't get to see our districts nearly be as competitive as they could be. And in this case, we have someone who has voted extensively as a Republican since 1994 and donated to Republican candidates, not big amounts, but has voted for and supported Republican candidates for most of her voting record. She is Katie Stamper, and she is on the ballot to run as the Democrat against Barry Loudermilk in Georgia's 11th Congressional District. The problem is neither of these two are really viable options for Democratic voters in that district. Well, we actually have a write-in candidate now who is running, who is a Democrat, running as a Democrat, and is going to try and make her way onto, well, first of all, you can't make your way onto the ballot at this point, Tracey, but thanks for joining us. Tracey Verhoeven joins us. But explain to me how you're going to find yourself on a runoff ballot, because that's the goal, right? You got to get on the runoff ballot.
Exactly.
Tell us how the mechanics of this will work if folks go to the polls in your congressional district and vote or try to write you in. How does that even work on these touchpads?
Okay, well, good morning to you. I wanted to touch base with something you just mentioned. The district chair, Sherry Giordano, back in February had interviewed Katie Stamper, and she went, whoa, this isn't right. Mm-hmm. Let's, do something about it. So she actually tried as much as she could to get her off the ballot. But because we have a law here in Georgia that anyone, they can say there's something and run as that something, there was nothing they could do. So getting to the write-in candidate, they disavowed the DPG, Democratic Party of Georgia, disavowed her last week, or actually it's been about 2 weeks now, and have endorsed, the District 11 has endorsed me as the write-in candidate. Now, what we need to do is I'm going to have signs everywhere. It's about education, to be honest, Ron. I mean, it's got to be about education and people knowing, and there's so many people that will even come to a Democratic meeting. Like the other day I was in Bartow and I asked, how many people here do not know that Katie Stamper's a fake Democrat? And a good 10 people raised their hands. So we have got to get it out there that, this is, the whole thing is just how it happened. I'll never know. But what we want to really do is have a lot of signs, and that's going to cost money. As you know, money is in politics, and until we get that change, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, you are talking like a Democrat. I'm believing this already.
I would love to change it. I mean, just make it public funding, and then everyone's equal, and then we're not, the first thing we got to get rid of is Citizens United, but that's a whole different thing. That's a different show, right, Ron?
Sure.
So, okay. So what I'm doing is on my website, and it is early, on my website, and then also we're giving out little cards, business cards that they can keep in their wallet, so they can actually bring that in on voting day into the polls. So not allowed to bring their phone, but by looking at that little card, on the back of each card, it does show you the instructions on what to do. And basically what you do is you click a box that says write-in candidate and you type in my name. Now, diverse. My name is not, Tracy Smith, unfortunately.
I was going to
So
say, yeah.
some wonderful people on TikTok have made like a song to help people, learn how to write my name. But what I've been just telling everyone is just think it as Ver, VER, think of Santa, ho, 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 and then even. Let's get even with the Republicans for, their shenanigans.
Okay.
And what I've been loving is that people have really jumped onto this whole thing because people, especially the young kids, on TikTok, we got 3,000 followers in 3 days. And that's
Nice.
because they're angry, isn't that? And it's because they're angry that we're all tired of the gerrymandering. We're tired of the voter suppression. We're tired of the cheating. And this to us is just another way of cheating. And we're a template in Georgia. I mean, if people don't think it's going to help, happen elsewhere, they got another thing coming.
So you're having to take on two candidates, essentially.
Right.
And really the hardest part for you is, again, folks even knowing how to spell your name and knowing that there is a write-in candidate. You mentioned
absolutely.
You mentioned the signs. I'm actually kind of grateful you haven't been able to get a whole lot of signs out because, again, there's a hurricane coming, and
good point.
High winds and yard signs just don't seem to get along too well with each other. Although that could help spread the message, if nothing else. No, I'm happy to hear that actually that you're not going to have to go and retrieve a bunch of yard signs. But I tell people all the time, yard signs don't vote, but they certainly do help with name recognition, and that's something that you definitely from the jump have to contend with is name recognition.
That's right. That's exactly it. And also my website is therealdemocrat.com or Tracey for Congress.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. But we did the realdemocrat.com because people go, what the heck? What is this? So they might be a little more interested in, finding out a little bit more. But also, my big thing is I want enough money where we can get a billboard on the side of the 575 that says, something about, hey, have you heard about the fake Democrat running for Congress?
Mm-hmm.
Therealdemocrat.com. Get people engaged that way as well. But you're right. It's about name recognition and doing it over and over and over again.
Well, you've got a lot of turf to cover too. I was going to point out. Your congressional district isn't just a nice little pocket. It stretches from Kennesaw, Cartersville, Jasper, Canton. I mean, you've got that's a lot of ground to cover.
Right. 5 counties: Cherokee County, Bartow, Gordon, Pickens, and Cobb. Parts of Cobb. Now, with the gerrymandering, it's crazy. I only have 3 districts in Cobb. So I even get confused. Well, wait a second. Can I canvass with this person? That's another thing. We get together and canvass so that we can, save money that way. And it's crazy. But the lucky and the good part is every single chair of those counties are really excited about having a choice, about having a write-in candidate. So they're letting all their people know. And so that's important too, to have people behind you. And I always say, this isn't about me at all. This campaign is about us and us fighting back against Republicans who, rather than have just good ideas for the people, just keep on trying to, cheat. And people are just over it.
I will say, though, just looking at this geography, this has to be a pretty red district.
Cherokee is, but it's turning. And I think that's where they're starting to get a little nervous. Cobb is pretty blue.
Yeah.
Or, But, like places like Bartow and things like that. But, I mean, what's really cool about where I am in Cherokee, my son goes to school at a certain school, this elementary school. You walk in and I swear I'm in, back in Los Angeles because it really is, 2/3 people of color and 1/3 white, I would say. And so it's changing. It's getting more diverse. And I mean, I love that because that's the only way people are really ever going to grow out of their, racist families or whatever they learn is by learning that people are people.
Yeah.
And, anyway, but yes, you're right. It is very red, but that's the reason why they're getting nervous is because it is starting to turn purple.
So again, I want to go back to the mechanics of how you can wind up actually winning this race, though, because first it's hard. We've gone over the write-in part, but all right, say what is the threshold? You obviously it's going to be impossible for any one candidate to get 50%. Although maybe I guess Loudermilk could, but the goal is to make sure that nobody gets 50% and that there is a runoff. Right? Can you explain to folks how that works?
Okay, sure. Okay, well, I don't want if Katie Stamper hears this, I don't want one of her, to get any ideas. But apparently, she's going to Republican meetups. She doesn't even go to the Democratic ones because no one will have her.
Well, she's declined to endorse the candidate atop the ticket.
Oh,
yeah, so
that's right.
She's not voting for Kamala Harris or Tim Walz. So
no, she's not, and she even admitted at a Cherokee barbecue that she didn't think Biden won the election. She thought he stole it. So she's just really right. And how can you be a Democrat? Even people even asked her, why didn't you just run as an independent? Why did you run as a Democrat? And she was like, because I can.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if she's just Looney Tunes or there's somebody funding her. I don't know. But anyway, getting back to the the runoff.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen is, by her going to all these Republican meetups, she may split the ticket with Barry Loudermilk. So that would give me more of a chance also.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the top two people who get the most percentage. Then if I was one of them, I would be on the ballot.
Gotcha.
For the runoff.
Gotcha. So you think there's the potential for Katie to split the GOP vote. And I mean, say it's like 60-40, red to blue, and the two of them wind up getting, 31 and 29, and you're over there with 40%, Cheshire cat grinning. Look what I got. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I think that's feasible anyway, wouldn't you?
I mean, I think so too. I mean, weirder things have happened as we have seen this year. I mean, anything can happen. And again, to me, it's not even about me as it is about, we got to take care of this planet. I mean, look at the hurricane situation. In Project 2025, they want to get rid of NOAA.
Yeah.
I mean,
the National Hurricane Center, right?
Right. It's like a bad Marvel movie, some crazy, rich person trying to destroy the world or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is about change. This is about taking care of our planet, taking care of our children, affordable health care, affordable child care, elder care. I'm really big on common sense gun safety. My father was killed in line of duty. He was a cop. And, making sure that when first responders do go into situations, they're not outgunned. It's all about common sense. And when we talk about those things I just mentioned, we all agree. And one thing I'd love to do is talk to Republicans because for the most part, we all agree on pretty much all of those things. And so when we just have a conversation, that really helps. And I am just really sick of the divisiveness, the crazy chaos. We need to go back to being Americans and just doing the damn right thing. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss.
Oh, my gosh. She said damn. Listen, I know you said it's not about you, but I actually do want to get to know a little bit more about you. We're going to take a quick break, let you have a swig of your coffee. We're with Tracey Verhoeven. She is the write-in Democratic candidate for Georgia's 11th Congressional District, and she is on The Ron Show. Back with her in just a few minutes here on America One Radio, AmericaOneRadio.com, Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. You can follow The Ron Show on your preferred social media platforms. That would be at Ron Show ATL, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads. If I leave anything out, I do not do TikTok. I do personally. I'm just not going to add another TikTok account because you have to fully log out and then fully log in to. It's too much. When TikTok gets that figured out, and they've got bigger fish to fry right now, trying to stay in the United States. Anyway, we are with Tracey Verhoeven. She is the Democratic Party candidate, although she is the write-in candidate for Georgia's 11th congressional district, and we've already gone over the mechanics of how that works. Tracey, tell me how. I know you mentioned you've got county party chairs that are exuberant, ecstatic that they have an actual Democratic candidate to push, to endorse. What is the state party doing or saying, or how are they helping, or can they help in any way, shape, form, or fashion?
That's a good point. And that was the next thing that we were going to try to get, is their help. I do have, a few people I have met who are doing the coordinating campaigns for Kamala that have open offices. And we're even opening an office in Canton for the first time,
Nice.
a Democratic office here.
Nice.
So it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Canton is in Cherokee County. So, that's the next thing. I mean, I am able to canvass with them. So when they have canvassers, my literature, my rack cards, whatever, can go with their literature and with their canvassers. But you're right. I mean, I think, that's why you're so important, Ron, and other people are getting the word out. I think they're just kind of like, not kind of putting it on the back burner for a little, and I'm not sure why, because personally, this needs to be a national story because they're going to do it elsewhere.
Right.
So, I would like to see some help.
Yeah, forget me. You need to be on Maddow or something like that if you want to get the word out.
I know. My team is always saying, we want Maddow, and I love Maddow, but I'm like, I want Joy Reid. I met her before years ago, and I'm like, I just love her. So, whoever is going to pick this up. I mean, I know that the Cherokee Tribune did. The Calhoun Times did. But and the HEC is supposed to call me. They were supposed to call me yesterday. But it needs to be out and about because, like I said, this is, again, not about me. This is a movement that, people are tired of, the Republican shenanigans.
Yeah. They too have a podcast, by the way, the Politically Georgia podcast that would air on WABE. That would be huge. Trust me, they get a lot more listeners than I do. But still, I will say this. I know for a fact that they listen to this show because usually if there's something really juicy going on my show first, they have it the next day. So I'll just go ahead and shout them out. Greg.
Good. Kudos to you.
Tia, Tracey, you want to give her a holler? Give her a holler. Actually, I wanted to spend a couple minutes actually talking about your background because folks are going to want to know. You're like, well, who is Tracey and why is she running for office? And you've been a small business owner. You mentioned the kids being out of school. You're a mom. You're the daughter of a police officer who fell in the line of duty. So tell us a little bit more. Fill in some of the gaps.
Well, my mom just passed 2 months ago. It was kind of sudden, so I'm still a little.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. But the reason why I mention her is that she always said since the beginning, she said, you came out of the womb wanting to make the world a better place. Mm-hmm. And, I do remember being like 4 years old and going around the neighborhood and picking up trash. And then there was this whole summer I was worried about, climate change and I couldn't even sleep. And, now they probably put the kid on meds, but I was like, well, I'm serious. But I was like, I was just always worried about it. What can I do? So I've always been kind of solution oriented. What can we do? Let's not complain about it. Let's find a damn, solution to it. So, even like when I was like 8, I drew on a blueprint, huge purifiers, and thought, why can't we connect them to the factories? And, so I've always had, these ideas that are, bigger than, me. But, then when my father was killed on duty, I was young also. And, that kind of did something to me. Yeah. So common sense gun safety is a big deal to me. So when I was in 2004, I went to be, through grassroots campaigns, I went to be a move-on organizer for John Kerry in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And, we let everybody in Wisconsin know that Bush had let the assault weapons ban lapse. Yep. I don't need to tell anybody how much, that has made a terrible, that was a terrible decision. Yep. And, right. So that needs to come back. just being a single mom, I might as well get, personal here because I think it really touches upon a lot of people. I was with a guy for 10 years. He didn't want to have kids. I finally broke up with him and I did it myself. I used IVF. And, again, that's an issue that, Republicans are talking about, maybe taking away. And it's just, nutty. So, yes, I have a 7-year-old. He has ADHD. So I have to deal with that. My mother, had health issues. So elder care was very expensive if I needed a break. So there's so many things that I can touch upon with the average American. And I think, growing up the way I did, I learned empathy. And I think that needs to be something in all of us civil servants, right?
You're right. Empathy, or what is that? We don't even see that on the other side of the aisle for sure.
No,
that is
we
the
don't.
clear delineation.
Not until something happens to them, they learn it.
Absolutely.
Right. Then they learn it. So, empathy is a big deal. And we're civil servants. To me, it's not about power. I could give a crap about power. I mean, I don't even know what that is. I want to make people's lives better. Why should people be working, 60, 80 hours a week and they can't even afford, to buy a house? Ew.
Yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to be the greatest country in the world. Let's really be the greatest country in the world. And so the middle class is a big deal to me too. That's, that touches my heart. The middle class and small businesses and now I'm sounding like Kamala.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Tracey Verhoeven running for Congress in Georgia's 11th Congressional District. We'll pick up on the conversation. Got a hard break back after this.
This is The Ron Show on America One Radio.
So we're on with Tracey Verhoeven. It's not bad enough in this country that gerrymandering is not only legal but affirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court. It's hard enough for we the people to have an equal footing when it comes to who represents us in the Senate because of arbitrary state lines that were drawn and oftentimes hundreds, 200 years ago that make absolutely no sense when it comes to apportioning out evenly. But then you've got gerrymandering. And with gerrymandering in the capped house, we don't have equal voice through the Electoral College to determining who the President of the United States is. We pride ourselves in this country on being a democracy when we're actually not. And we want to spread democracy around the world when the rest of the world looks at us and goes, you guys had a guy occupy the White House who didn't actually win the popular vote. Maybe have a seat when you're talking to us about democracy. It's kind of funny how this all plays out. But here we have, in this case, a congressional district in the state of Georgia where someone can just claim that they're a Democrat and run, and next thing you know, she's on the ticket, but she's not actually a Democrat. And that is the case with Katie Stamper, who is the Democrat in name only on the ballot against Barry Loudermilk, the incumbent Republican in Georgia's 11th Congressional District. Well, liberals, progressives, actual Democrats in Georgia's 11th Congressional District wanted someone who espoused their values to run, even though it was past the primary season, and they found Tracey Verhoeven. And Tracey is the write-in candidate, and hopefully if she can get that race to a runoff and be one of the top 2 vote getters percentage-wise in November, then there will be a runoff, and she can take on whomever that is, whether it's Loudermilk, whether it's Katie Stamper, and wrest that seat from the Republican Party. Tracey, how did this come to be that you were even going to be the write-in candidate? Did you have to be talked into it, or did you just look around and say, well, nobody else is doing this, I'll do it?
Well, it was kind of interesting because, I was still kind of hurting from the Senate race. It was, I don't want to say too much about my opponent in the primary. She's a lovely lady.
That's right, though. But let's do point out you were running for a state Senate seat as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and she's a lovely lady, but we all thought that I would win easily. And so when it looked like, actually, I had a primary party that night with Antonio Daza. And so the two of us were having a party, and you can imagine what that was like at the end of the night,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was not fun. And so my team did a deep dive analysis, and it looks like, that crazy, they call it strategic voting, where Republicans pull Democratic ballots and vote against certain people.
Yeah.
We do think that that's probably what happened somewhat to me and to Antonio. I mean,
Okay.
we can't prove it,
Right.
but there were 600 Republicans that pulled in our, I think it was altogether three. I don't remember how many now, but 600 was a lot, and I only lost by 200. I think it was 200. So for whatever reason, those 600 Republicans really wanted to vote in our, so I was really hurting on that because I was kind of like, whoa, what happened?
Yep.
And, I felt like this was my time. I really wanted it. It was my passion. This is my purpose. I mean, so it really took me for a loop. So I was just kind of, hanging out and, we all thought, oh, we can write Antonio in. And then we found out we couldn't. And I thought to myself, I just all of a sudden had this thought, maybe I'll be the writing candidate. And I went, oh God, what am I thinking? Oh, please.
Yeah.
Well, the next day I get a phone call and the Amy Suzanne Powers is one of the Cherokee liberal ladies of the network group. It's a professional network group.
Uh-huh.
And they had gotten together and said, you know what? Amy had a really bad experience with meeting Katie Stamper at the Cherokee barbecue. And she says, we have to do something about this. This woman is just, it's bad. And so she talked with people and said, what do you think about me asking Tracey Verhoeven to run? And they said, yes. And so she called me and I went, wow, okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
And at first I needed, hey, I'll be honest. I need a break. I need a vacation. When it comes to camping, I'm 24/7. I've given it my all.
Yeah,
and I just really needed a break.
It's a job.
So yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness, it is. And you have to love it. I don't really like fundraising, but the campaigning itself, getting out there, meeting people and, trying to make a difference does feel good. But so I said, there's two people I need to talk to first, Amy, and that's Sherry Giardino, who is the district chair of 11. And I need to call Antonio and ask him what he thinks. He's a friend and I want to make sure that he feels okay about the situation. And Sherry couldn't say too much because, she's the liaison between, the state and the the district.
Yeah.
But the thing is, she was the one that had tried very hard to get Katie off of the ballot. So she couldn't say too much, but I knew she was pleased. And then I called Antonio and he said, girl, you're crazy, but I will support you. Yeah. Antonio. And I will support you. And so we started after my vacation and we haven't looked back.
So we were talking a little bit about, your biography and how you were an entrepreneur. I'm a residential realtor, by the way, so we could sit here and talk about house flipping left and right.
Yeah.
But that's that you did a lot of that. Was it in Michigan, you said?
Michigan, but you know what? I used to have my license in California.
Gotcha.
And I should have kept it, but I thought, I'm never going back to California. Right. I love it here in Georgia. And I just kind of let it lapse. And I think if I'm going to get back into real estate, I would do it here. But yeah, Michigan, there was a show called Hung on HBO, and you could see they were filming in Detroit.
Right.
And the houses, and they were abandoned. They were beautiful. And I thought, I want to see this city revitalized. And, I saw Michael Moore's movie about GM and, this small, middle class union jobs and all that stuff. And I just really wanted to see it come back. So I've done, I have a few houses there and, I have renters and that kind of thing.
Oh my God. That's what Bargain Block does. That's literally like the premise of Bargain Block on HGTV.
I need to watch that.
Yes. You were well ahead of the curve on that. So,
well, it is funny because that was meant to be also. I was, as I mentioned, I did IVF and I knew I was going to get pregnant. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to be a stay-home mom. I need to do something quick. And I thought, you know what? That's when I, had saw that show and I went, I want to get into Detroit and buy some houses. And I thought, where the heck did that come from? Well, I happened to look on Facebook and I was friends with a guy I used to do real estate with.
Yeah.
I called him up. I go, Jeff, you're in Detroit flipping houses? And he said, yeah, come on out. I'll show you how to do it.
Nice.
So it kind of happened that way. He ended up passing away from a heart attack. And so, I was kind of left on my own because we had partnered, and there was a whole, Detroit is its own animal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people there that aren't exactly on the up and up.
Yeah.
So I've been through my share of craziness, but I'm grateful to it. And the city is just, I'm so proud of my cute little houses and all that kind of stuff.
So back here in Georgia 11, let's talk about what it's going to take, because I'm helping a congressional candidate running in a rural-ish, district in South Carolina, and
good for you.
Like we know you have to talk to conservative voters to win in a district like that, and there are a lot of conservative voters who are just done with the Trump era, the Trump chapter of the GOP. And so what are some of the issues that you believe you can point to and say, listen, Barry Loudermilk has been so focused on January 6th and rewriting what that was, and he's been so busy bootlicking for Donald Trump, for the last 6 years or so. And if you want someone that's just going to represent your district with some bona fide common sense values, look no further.
That is so true.
How do you have
it
that?
Is so true.
Are you having these conversations? Are you making some inroads? Are doors opening for you to do that?
Absolutely. I knocked on one door about 2 weeks ago, and it was a Republican, and he said, you know what, I got to tell you, I'm sick of the Trump chaos. And I said, well, let's talk about what we do agree on. And I kind of touched base on that a little while ago about, everybody thinks elder care is expensive. Caregiver burnout is a big deal here in Georgia. It's one of the top states for that. The child care is expensive. Yep. Very expensive. And so, even having, children start preschool a little bit earlier would help in that way. Also, that would be helping small businesses to open those daycares.
Yeah.
I talk about common sense gun safety. Now, this is interesting. 80%, are you ready for this? Even in a Fox News poll, 80% of Americans believe in common sense gun safety, meaning better background checks and red flag laws.
Yeah.
That's amazing right there. They also believe in, no one under 21 should be able to acquire a gun. Now, when it comes to assault weapons, it's 61%.
But that's still a majority. That's still a majority.
It's still a majority. And, this is what I do, too, when people are like, oh, you're not going to take my assault weapon. It's like, well, let's talk about it from another point of view. Like, and I mentioned my father, not he was killed in the line of duty from assault weapon. It was a heroin addict with a gun. But look what happened at Uvalde, for crying out loud. Yeah. We really want our first responders afraid to walk into a situation to help people because they're afraid of, they're outgunned.
Yeah.
Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about, again, common sense, people kind of start to get it.
Well, but I will say this, and again, I grew up in Georgia myself, and I know folks who already have these kinds of weapons that might be targeted for bans or concerned about anybody coming for them. Like, okay, so if you don't want to voluntarily, turn in your AK or your AR or whatever, that's fine. You bought it, you own it, it's yours. You've had recreational whatever you do with it. That's fine and well, but can we at least come to some common sense agreement that, local law enforcement should know its existence, and maybe we could coordinate to know that you are safely storing it with local law enforcement, not even the FBI or the ATF, but just local law enforcement, just to do a drive-by.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, I see you got this. This is all good. Talk to you later.
That's right. Safe storage is a big deal. I mean, look how many children who are killed from just handguns by getting into, again, common sense, folks.
Yeah.
Just have it.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, make it happen. I mean, but getting back to that Republican knocking on the door, at the end of the conversation, he said, I'm going to vote for you. And I also had J.D. Jordan, who's running for state 56, and Michael Garza, who's running for House. I can't think of his district at the moment, but all three of us had our literature together. And by the end of the conversation, he and his wife were going to write my name in and vote for JD and Michael. So, it's a matter of just talking with people and finding common ground.
You say that you have a lot of folks, supporting you. You reached out to Antonio Daza. You've
Right.
connected with county chairs, the district chair, this, that, and the other. What talk to me about what sort of coordination there is to ensure that, have they given you social media access? Are they working with
Oh,
you
yeah.
on any of that to make sure that they're getting your name out, because that is still the important thing.
That's right.
We talked about the lack of yard signs, and we're kind of late in the race for that. And hopefully, you'll be able to, after Hurricane Helene, be able to canvass your district and get those yard signs out. But what else? What else are you able to do? What sort of tools do you have at your disposal from those who are aligning behind you to help get your name out?
Well, they've invited to me, excuse me, to a lot of events, meet up, meet the candidate events.
Uh-huh.
So that's fun too. And there's all kinds of fairs that are going on right now. Like this Saturday, depending on the weather, I'm invited to 3 different events.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, getting my name out there that way. I go to all of their meetings, at least I try to. Pickens, to be honest, I've not heard back from him. So I need to, keep knocking on his door. But yeah, they're really excited about telling people. It's in their newsletters. It's mentioned at the meetings, the social media. They're very good about social media. I've had lots of people say, "Hey, I'll do postcards for you." I had one lady, this lovely lady I've not met yet. Her name is Molly, and she took 1,000 postcards from me and did them all in a day. I don't know how
Wow.
many people yeah, I don't know how many people, right. So she actually did 800. She texted me last night. We did 800. I go, "Oh my gosh. How the heck did you do that fast?"
Mm.
But people like that, they're really engaged, and that gets out the word too. Also, we're having people donate, and that's a big deal. I mean, signs are $5 a piece.
There
I
you
mean, they're
go.
not
Yeah,
cheap.
yeah.
So donations really help as well.
And folks can go if they'd like to do so. And I heard you mention before, fundraising is not fun. It's like the candidate I work with in South Carolina. It's not fun for him either. But folks can go to Tracey, that's TRACEY for Congress, TraceyforCongress.com, or
Spelled out.
TheRealDemocrat.com if you'd like.
Right.
It might be easier.
Yeah.
And they can drop a coin. Maybe a $25 donation would get you 5 yard signs. That's a pretty good
Yeah.
investment right there. If folks would like to do that, that would certainly help. And again, the good news is those yard signs aren't out now for a hurricane to be blowing about. So
Right.
we've saved some money by actually having a little bit of a delayed campaign. Speaking of delayed campaigns, we only found out. It seems like it's been months, but it's really only been weeks since we found out that there was going to be a change atop the Democratic Party ticket. I want to pick your brain a little bit about that and get a sense of what folks in your district feel about that. We're with Tracey Verhoeven. She is the write-in Democrat running for Georgia's 11th congressional district, and we'll pick up at that point in the conversation. If you give me just a quick break, one more swig of coffee for you. You're listening to The Ron Show on America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn. All right, we're in the home stretch. Just a few more minutes here with Tracey Verhoeven. She is the write-in candidate for Georgia's 11th congressional district, running against Barry Loudermilk, the incumbent Republican, but also Katie Stamper, the Republican who's running as a Democrat, who somehow wrangled her way into the primary, because anybody can just say, "Hey, I'm a Democrat, I'm going to run for this, wink, wink," and then did. And with some splitting of votes and some misinformation, Katie Stamper wound up being the, I'm using air quotes here, nominee for the Democratic Party. Anyway, Tracey has mounted a write-in campaign and hoping to keep Loudermilk and Stamper below 50% so that she herself could maybe find herself on a runoff ballot. You've been out there campaigning now for a good bit. I'm sure you saw the difference, the temperature change, the spike in amperage, I guess we would say, since President Biden decided not to continue running this cycle,
Right.
and with Kamala Harris ascending to the top of the ticket. Give me a sense of what the vibe is like in your congressional district. Again, a red-leaning congressional district. Give us a sense of where folks are with the race as it stands now atop the ticket.
Well, people are really excited. They're ready for a change. I think she's really motivated people. And now she's really getting her message out where before people didn't know a lot about her. But she's getting out the message that kind of, it resonates with a lot of people. And she's talking about the middle class. And, I was screaming for joy when finally people were talking about price gouging. Because for 2 years, I've been saying, this is price gouging. This isn't inflation.
Yeah.
It was so obvious to me. And so, that's getting out there. And she's, coming up with plans that will help the American people. And so people are really excited, especially the younger people, the millennials and the Gen Z. Well, I should say the Gen Z. Well, the millennials and the Gen Z.
Yeah.
They're very, very excited.
On the other side, you've got, two opponents who are both Trump supporters. And
That's right.
Loudermilk, the incumbent, is actually even on the record. He opposes women's rights and reproductive freedom.
That's right.
And that's kind of a big issue this election cycle.
Right. Well, and then, not only does he, not believe that women should have the freedom to take care of their own, bodies, but he also was, of course, we know he gave the tour to the insurrections the day before January 6th.
Yeah.
And that's a whole,
and it's been working really hard to, pardon the term, whitewash January 6th with his fake investigation and findings. And I mean, it's, methinks he doth protest a bit too much,
Right. Right.
Kind of interesting how he's working really hard to rewrite that. But also
he is.
I saw some polling data recently that showed that Project 2025 is polling at 4% approval, and yet
oh my gosh,
he's got his
sounds like the Supreme Court.
Yeah, he has his fingerprints all over that.
Yeah, he does. Well, and then also, right, he does. And then working with David Barton, that kind of separation of church and state. They're these things are like not even patriotic. No. I mean, they're anti-patriotic. Yeah. So it's, maybe it's time for him to realize, hey, you know what? I want to do other things. Maybe I'll go into insurance, be an insurance salesman or something. I don't know.
Only we could pull that off. And then the Democrat that's not the Democrat, Katie Stamper, who actually had run for office as a libertarian candidate before, under a different name. Karen, yes. How do we go from Karen to Katie? How do we go from Karen to Katie anyway?
I don't know. I think she changed. Well, I shouldn't say why I think she changed it.
That's like a Republican thing all of a sudden. J.D. Vance has had different names before too. What are we?
Has he?
Yes, he's changed his name.
Oh, God. Well, maybe that is the thing because they're running from their past. I mean, she hasn't had a very good record when it comes to being a lawyer, and I think the bar had a problem with her and she got sued and all kinds of things. So also I guess in her reviews they haven't looked very good, but in her Twitter, oh my gosh, we're gonna have them on our website. Her Twitter is Karen Secandy, and she also goes by Oh Christmas Tree. She's had some pretty radical tweets that she's reposted and such. So maybe, she's just trying to kind of, sane wash herself. I don't know, but she hasn't done a very good job of it.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to let you go because you've got, it's a rainy day, but so don't go putting out any yard signs ahead of the hurricane. But I'm sure you've got some phone banking to do or some postcard writing, and maybe we can rustle up some more media time for you as well. Now that, again, the folks at Politically Georgia who might be listening, guys, reach out to Tracey Verhoeven because she's a good story. This is a fascinating story, if nothing else. And what we see happening across the country between gerrymandering and we already saw what happened with George Santos, and right. We're trying to unpoison democracy here, and this is a very poisonous situation that can be cleansed if we can just get Tracey into the runoff, and that starts by writing her in November on the touchpad. And again, explain to folks how they can walk into their election booth and do that.
Well, early voting starts in 2 weeks, October 15th. So that's why I really got to get the name out there. Yeah. They just click the box. But I want to also thank you. I mean, you're the hero in this.
I'm
You're
not.
getting all of this. No, you are. Hey, look at Sean Hannity. How did they sleep at night with these billions
Don't
of dollars?
compare me to that. Ugh. I'm going to go
what I'm saying.
shower now.
Look, but you're the hero in this. You're on the right side of history, and I appreciate you. I really do.
So they can go in on the touchpad, and when it comes to where they vote for Congress, they can hit a button that says write-in candidate, right?
That's right. They click that, and then they actually type in my name. And as long as the intent is in there, it looks good. That's another thing, too. We are safe about if you wrote in Mickey Mouse, your vote would be thrown out. But because I am Secretary of State qualified, you can put my name and there will be no problems.
Tracey Verhoeven running for Georgia's 11th Congressional District. That's Ver, ho, 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 even.
That's right.